Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm going to wait about 30 more seconds before I go ahead and get started, just because a lot of people are logging on slow for this first period of the day. So I don't want to repeat myself. So I'm going to wait 30 more seconds. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to class, and thank you for having pictures of yourself as your avatar picture for Google. You guys are rock stars. Welcome back to normal classes. Thank you guys for all being so awesome with MAPS testing last week. I know it's not fun, but you guys were super great, and I'm glad that we had a really good amount of people participate, and it's over now until the winter test, which is in January. So woohoo! So today we're going to start with the actual algebra curriculum. So we're going to start with chapter 1, lesson 1. And we're going to do a lesson, and then you're going to get a homework assignment on big ideas math. And then that is all I have planned for today. So I'm going to start having these welcome slides every morning when we get started for 5th period. And so it'll have the bell ringer, the date, what class it is, the agenda, so what's going to happen for today's lesson, and then the attendance question. So if everyone could go ahead and type in the chat whether they prefer milk chocolate or dark chocolate, then later on it records the chat and I can go back and see who was here for attendance, since it's kind of hard to do during class. So just go ahead and type in the chat whether you prefer milk chocolate or dark chocolate. And so you'll see this every day, and so you can just do it as soon as you get in to type your answer, because I'll record the chat for the whole time. All right, so today I have some housekeeping, so just a few things to go over. Then we'll discuss the bell ringer, then we'll do a lesson on one-step equations, and then a tour of big ideas math, because I know that some of you did the first assignment, but I just want to show you guys some helpful things for those of you that haven't logged on yet. And then the homework, if we have time left to finish it. So thank you guys so much for showing up today. You're awesome. These lights are going to be the death of me. Okay. Thank you guys so much for showing up today. We're going to start with our algebra curriculum today, and we're going to do lesson 1.1. And then on Thursday, we'll do lesson 1.2. And then on Friday, it's very important you show up because we're going to have a quiz over lessons 1.1 and 1.2. If you don't show up for the quiz, you're going to have to schedule a time during office hours to complete your quiz. So it's important that you show up on Friday to take the quiz. It's only going to be 5 questions. It's going to be over one-step equations and two-step equations, which we're going to learn this week. But I'm confident all of you guys will do very well on it. So show up on Friday to take the quiz. All right, so here's the bell ringer. X plus 4 equals 10. What is the answer to that? Does anyone know? Type it in the chat. Six. Good job, guys. So how did you get that? Did you take the time to solve it as a math equation, or did you just use your brain and you were like, oh, what plus 4 will give me 10? Did you do it mathematically, or did you just use your brain? Yeah. So one-step equations are something that we do all the time. It's like what plus 4 will equal 10, or what plus 5 will equal 8. It's just simple one-step equations, but I'm going to show you guys today how to do it the mathematical way to solve them. If you've already done this in pre-algebra, then it's just going to be a review and a refresher, no stress. We'll just take it easy for this first week while we jump into algebra. That way it's a little bit easier on you guys. So we're going to get started with one-step equations. Okay, so first, if you're taking notes, here's some words to write down, and just remember it's words that we're going to be using throughout the whole semester. So words to know and remember. First off, we have equation. It's a statement that two expressions are equal. So 5 plus 5 equals 10 has the equal sign, means that it's an equation. If it doesn't have an equal sign, then you aren't going to be solving for anything. So we're going to be working in algebra a lot with equations, things with equal signs. So it means that two expressions are equal. They are the same. Solution, a value that makes the equation true. So from our warm-up, 6 was the solution to x plus 4 equals 10. So your answer, we can also call it the solution. Okay, then we have inverse operations. Two operations that undo each other, such as addition and subtraction. So for x plus 4 equals 10, we had addition, but the inverse of it would be subtraction. And then multiplication, the inverse is division. And then if you go backwards, subtraction, the inverse is addition, and division, the inverse is multiplication. So we're going to use that later on as we're solving our one-step equations. To get rid of something, you're going to do the inverse. So if I say the inverse, just remember opposite. Inverse, opposite. Okay, last one, equivalent equations are equations that have the same solutions. So solutions are the answers. So if we have 5 plus 3 equals 8, we can also have 4 plus 4 equals 8, or 6 plus 2 equals 8. Those are all equivalent equations because they all equal the same answer. So those are just some good things to know. We're going to be using those words a lot in algebra, so get used to them. And if you need a refresher ever, let me know. But remember, inverse is opposite. Okay, moving on to solving equations by addition or subtraction. So first, go ahead and solve x minus 3 equals -5 on your own. Type the answer in the chat, and then I'll go over how to get the answer. If you don't know how to do it yet, don't worry. But if you do know how to do it, go ahead and solve it and type the answer in the chat. If you don't know how to do it, just sit back and I'll explain in a minute. Okay, so today we're going to be learning one-step equations using addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So all the operations. This first slide is over addition and subtraction. So we have x minus 3 equals -5. So I'm going to do it on my whiteboard. So I'm going to be over here. If you need me to slow down or have any questions, feel free to stop me. But what we have right here is we're trying to solve for x. We need to find out what -3 equals -5. So I can do this mathematically to get the answer rather than having to keep guessing. So what I'm going to do is I like to look at two equations as the same picture. And what I do to one side, I must do to the other. So I like to draw the line for the equal sign to bring it down just to help me remember the left side from the right side. So what I do to the left side, I must do to the right side. That's like Algebra 101. What you do on one side of the equation, you must do to the other. So my goal is to get x by itself. So in order to do that, I need to get rid of this -3. So I have a -3. To get rid of it and make it 0, I'm going to do the opposite. So to make 3 0 and get rid of it, I have to do the opposite, or the inverse, which is adding. So I'm going to add 3 so that this side of the equation is just x. And then on the other side of the equation, what I do to one side, I must do to the other. So I added 3 on this side. I'm going to add 3 to this side. -3 and a +3 cancel out, and I'm left with 0. -5 plus 3 gives me a -2. And then the x comes down, and I'm left with x equals -2. Now, to make sure that I know this is the right answer, I can take my x and plug it back into the original equation to make sure I'm correct. So -2 subtract 3 equals -5. Go ahead and solve. A -2 subtract 3 gives me -5. And -5 does in fact equal -5. So that's solving one-step equations. Does anyone need me to go over anything again? Okay. So good job to Evelyn. She already knew how to do it. She got it correct in the chat. Good job. Okay. So for this next one, we're doing it with decimals just to show you that you can solve one-step equations using decimals. It's not that scary. So we have 0.9 equals y plus 2.8. So this time I have a plus sign, where last time I had a subtraction sign. So my goal is to get y by itself. And this time I'm working on the right side of the equation, where last time my variable was on the left side. It can be on either side and we can still solve it. So what I'm going to do to get y by itself is the inverse of 2.8. So it's addition. I'm going to do the opposite, which is subtraction. Minus 2.8. So what I do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other. So I'm going to subtract 2.8 from this side as well. Everybody following along? Okay. A positive 2.8 and a negative 2.8 are going to cancel each other out. And then I'm left with y equals 0.9 minus 2.8. So I get 1. 9 minus 8 is 1. And then 0 minus 2 is 2. Minus 2.1 equals y. So I can check that this is correct by adding negative 2.1 plus 2.8. And I'm left with 0.9 equals 0.9. Okay, moving on. We have solving equations by multiplication or division. So earlier we did addition and subtraction, and we did the inverse of those. So multiplication and division, the inverse of those is multiplication, it's division, and division, it's multiplication. So go ahead and solve the first one if you know how to, and type the answer in the chat. If you don't, I'll explain in just 1 minute. Okay, so for this one, I have negative n over 5 equals -3. So I need to figure out what n is to make this a true statement. So now I have a fraction bar, which is division. So I'm going to use the inverse, which is multiplication, to get n by itself and get rid of the 5. So the opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply 5 on both sides of the equation, because what I do to one side, I must do to the other. So 5 times negative n over 5 gives me a negative n, because 5 and 5 cancels. Remember, everything's over 1. So a denominator and a numerator that are the same are going to cancel. And then I'm left with 1 times negative n, which gives me negative n. And then I have a negative 3 times 5, which gives me negative 15. But I can't have my variable be negative. So I need to get rid of the negative sign to make it positive. And in order to do that, I just divide it by a negative 1. So n equals 15. And I can show that that's a true statement, because if I plug n back into my original equation, which is negative n divided by 5. So I have negative 15 divided by 5 equals negative 3. 15 divided by 5 gives me 3. And then there's a negative sign, and negative 3 equals negative 3. Anyone have any questions on that? That was on multiplication. So now we're going to do, ooh, that was loud, division. So we have 1.3 z equals 5.2. So how am I going to get rid of this z? Because it's attached to the 1.3, so I can't just subtract it. So what am I going to do to get rid of the 1.3 and get z by itself?
Divide?
Correct. Good job. So I'm going to divide by 1.3, and then they'll cancel out, and I'll be left with z. But what I do to one side of the equation, I must do to the other. And I'm not going to lie, I had to use a calculator because I hate dividing decimals. But 5.2 divided by 1.3 gives me 4. So I'm left with z equals 4. And then I can prove that it's a correct statement by plugging it back in. Does anyone have any questions on solving one-step equations? Okay, good job, guys. Last one I'm going to do is a story problem, because there's a couple story problems on your homework assignment. So on January 22nd, 1943, the temperature in Baker City fell from 54 degrees at 9 a.m. to negative 4 degrees at 10:50. How many degrees did the temperature fall? So for math problems, there's kind of like a little three steps that your book likes you to take. And so number 1 is understand the problem. Number 2 is to make a plan. And number 3 is to solve the problem. So for number 1, understand, you know the temperature before and you know the temperature after. So you need to find the middle one, how many degrees the temperature fell. So number 2, use a verbal model to write an equation that represents the problem, then solve. So if I know the starting point and I know the end point, I'm just trying to find the middle. So I started at 54 and I ended at negative 4. And I'm trying to find x. You can use any variable you want for x. I just like to use x because that's what we use the most in math, so it makes sense. So I'm trying to find this equation. And I'm doing a negative sign here by how many, because I'm trying to find how many degrees the temperature fell. So falling is declining, so a negative sign. But if it was how many degrees did the temperature rise, I would use a positive sign because it's addition. So I found this answer, or the 54 from the story problem, and I found the negative 4 from the story problem. I'm trying to find x. So what am I going to do to solve it?
Subtract.
Subtract what number?
54 and negative 4?
54. So I want to get x by itself. This is just a normal one-step equation now. So I want to get x by itself. So I'm going to get rid of 54. it's a positive, so I'm going to subtract it by doing the opposite to get rid of it. What I do to one side of the equation, I must do to both. Positive 54 and a negative 54 cancel out. I'm left with negative x equals negative 4 plus a negative 54 gives me negative 58. But then I have a negative x here, and you can't have a negative to have the right answer. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1 to get my x to be positive. And then I'm left with a positive x and a positive 58 degrees. Does anyone need me to go over anything again for the story problem, or does that make sense? This stupid light. It's only set for 10 minutes, and that just is not long enough. Okay, so no questions. I'm going to move on to a tour of Big Ideas Math. So let me open up that tab. So I just went to bigideasmath.com, and it brought me to this page. I'm going to erase this stuff. So your username is what I sent out a list a while ago, or it's in our Google Classroom underneath resources. It's Big Ideas usernames. So you can go there if you're unsure of what your username is. It's like your first initial, your last name, and then some numbers for some people. And then your password is just the password you use to log into the Chromebook. So I made a test account for the other math teacher, Mrs. Ers. So I'm going to log into that one. Why is it not? Yes. There we go. Okay. So when you log in, this is what it'll look like. There's resources, assignments, and reports on this top bar. And so you guys are in Algebra 1, so it'll look like this. So there's the dynamic ebook right here that I want to show you guys just because there's some cool resources in it. So I clicked on the dynamic ebook, and then I go on here to Algebra 1. And then I wait for it to load. Okay, so cover. This is what it'll look like when you get in there. And then you can come over here to contents and pick chapter 1 or whatever chapter we're working on. And then you use these arrows to flip through the pages. But say I explained something in class and you just don't quite understand what I was talking about, you can click over here where it has the examples. There's a little play button, and you can click that, and then it'll open up in a new tab a video of them solving the equation. So maybe the way I explain it just doesn't make sense to you, and you just want to hear it from someone else. So if you want to do that, you're more than welcome to. You just go to the ebook and then click on the plus, the little play button, and it'll play a video of someone else solving it. So that might be helpful for some of you guys if I'm not the best at explaining for you. And then there's like games and apps and vocabulary and all sorts of games you could play if you want to, but I don't think any of you will. It's more for like little kids that like playing games. But what we're going to use Big Ideas Math for mainly is assignments. So on this tab right here, you go to assignments. And there's 2 right here. So there's today's assignment 1.1 and then Thursday's assignment 1.2. It's not open yet, but the first one is because I already assigned it. So you're going to click on the pencil. I went into it yesterday. That's why it says resume, but usually it'll say start. So you click on the pencil to get into it. And then once again, you wait forever for it to load. Jeez. Okay. And then it'll say like start, but I did it yesterday, so it says resume. So you'll click that, and then it'll open up on problem 1. And basically what you do is you just like drag in the answers, and then you can check your answer. So let me put these in. Click check answer. And then it tells you what you got wrong and what you got right. And then you can go back and flip that, or like make corrections for if you know where you messed up. And then you can check your answer again. And then if you get it right, it'll tell you that they're all right. So you can check your answer up to 3 times. And then after that, you lose points. So check your answer and make sure that you get 100% if you can. And then keep going on to the next questions. And then right here, it says calculator, so you can click that. And there's a calculator if you don't want to use the one on your computer or your phone. And then if you check your answer and it's wrong, you can click the need help. And it'll open up a video for you to watch or a video to review. And then you can watch the video and hopefully try and get it correct. So use the check answer, and you can check your answer up to 3 times. And then say you start the assignment today, but then you have to go to your next class, you don't get to finish it. You come up here and click on your name, and then you click save and exit. So then it'll save where you were at and save all your answers and exit you out. And then once you're finished, you're also going to click on your name and click submit, because if you don't click submit, it won't show me your answers. So you need to click submit when you're done. And then after you are done with the assignment, come back to Google Classroom and turn it in on Google Classroom as well. So does anyone have any questions on Big Ideas Math? Okay, I just assigned it in Google Classroom. And so we only have 3 minutes left, so you won't get started on it today, but you can get started on it this afternoon. And it'll be due next Monday at midnight. So thanks you guys so much for coming to class today. And oh, I forgot to mention, if you get a 70% on Big Ideas, then I will put 100% in the grade book. So you just have to get 70% of them correct to get 100% in the grade book. So if you get an 80, you'll still get 100 in the grade book. So don't stress about getting 100% on Big Ideas. You just need a 70%. Does that make sense? Okay, that's all I had for today. Now you guys can leave. I'll see you on Thursday. Have a great day.
Miss Wicklander?
Yes, let me stop
What's
recording.
going on? What are we doing on